And I'm very thrilled to be working with Amos Yang today. Amos, as you know, is a cellist with the San Francisco Symphony, and I was just admiring the concert last night. I was gushing to Amos about how fabulous it was to hear Sibelius' Second Symphony, and talk a little bit about his evolution as a cellist and an athlete. And I know that, I've seen Amos so many times showing up backstage at the symphony in a bike helmet with your bicycle. And so I know that's such an important part of your life. And I'm thrilled that you're going to talk about how that integrates with your life as a musician.
I always have felt a great correlation between athletics and what I do on the cello. And believe it or not, if you were in the room with me, you wouldn't believe this, because I'm only 5'6", but at the time in high school, I was actually an all-city point guard for Lowell High School. So I played a lot more basketball in my high school years than I did cello. I'm pointing to my cello sitting next to me. And so I thought some of the most important things to me that I could share would be actually how I warm up, how I sort of calm the spirit during those warm-ups before I get to the cello. Because I find that most people, if you ask them what their warm-up routine is, for example, they'll say, oh, well, I do my scales and I'm so diligent about that. And that's great, but I have a number of things that I like to do even before I get to that point. And I thought I would show you some of those. These first few things actually are based more not on cello, but on the Alexander technique. So I start on the floor because there's no muscle or effort needed, right? To sit up, you're working something in order to do that. But to lie out, you can actually completely let yourself melt into the ground. And that's one of the things I actually try to do. So I'm going to move my camera down. So as you can see, I'm totally flat. My arms, I actually sort of give them directions too. Part of Alexander is allowing yourself to direct your body. Like, so my hands, for example, I'm directing this way, for this arm, this way. And I'm giving myself instructions, like imagining I'm melting, right? Like the sun is really hot. Danielle was just saying it's going to be 106 degrees in Martinez. Imagine that you're a chocolate on hot asphalt and you're just melting into the ground. This typically really helps me just relax. Like if you imagine yourself melting. Okay. So that's one of the things that as I'm doing that, I'm directing my feet out that way, out this way, my arms. Yep. Then I actually I bend my knees up because this takes a little effort. But now my back can be flat against the ground. And I do similar exercise with my knees up, but I really feel like my soles of my feet, I imagine, again, more imaging. I imagine that there's roots growing from the soles of my feet into the ground. I can't tell you how many auditions or performances I've used this in where I feel like, okay, my heart's getting a little bit faster, or even a solo in orchestra where the orchestra drops out. There's nothing like a huge amount of sound disappearing and you having to play all by yourself. I can't tell you, I start thinking a few measures before about roots growing from my feet, so I'm ground, and breathing lower. This all really helps that aspect of it.
Next week?
Well, next week I thought I would talk. I was planning on talking more about the audition, the life of an auditioner. And also sort of the contrast, if people were curious, the 3 lives that I've led, often people aren't familiar so much what goes into the life of a chamber musician versus what it's like to play in an orchestra now. And eventually someday, probably what I'm going to transition even more into is teaching. Like I've been doing the teaching simultaneously, but how do they all fit together? And I was also planning on showing some of the excerpts and what committees, and I hesitate to say this because committees are 10 different people, and I'm only one of those. And oftentimes we all listen to the same excerpt differently, but I can give an idea of what most committees are looking for in an excerpt, and the whole process. So I thought that might be interesting to share with people.
Yeah.